This is Bill's Campday Recap. I'm Thad Brown, joined by Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert. We got a full house here on a Monday. Getting close to the end of the preseason. We don't have many of these Camp Day shows left. We're going to be doing real BKL nightly shows again in not too long. Today we're going to talk about Ed Oliver. He was at practice today. His teammates trying to support him. We'll talk about what happened at practice too. A lot of starters, a lot of talk from defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard. We've learned a few things about the defense today. And also we spoke with rookie receiver Skyler Bell and CJ Gardner-Johnson doing a good deed on the Bills or for the Bills training staff. Let's begin though with the Ed Oliver story. That has been the thing that I think has dominated most of the discussion when it comes to the Bills. And there he is at practice today, smiling, in a good mood, joking with teammates. Michael Hoyt said one of the ways the Bills are trying to support him these days is to not make every interaction about what has happened with him, with the passing of his son due to a drowning accident back in June. The locker room, it might be actually a really good place when it comes to helping a guy in a situation like Ed Oliver because of the unique situation. And it's something that Hoyt thought might actually be one of the best workplaces in the world when it comes to a situation like Oliver is dealing with.
You're with, at this point, 100 guys that you know really well, guys that you're close with, guys that have, been through it with you. So it's as good as a place as any, but there's nothing that's going to help that situation. I'm glad that he's here. You can lean on the rest of the crew, and we've obviously got all the support services that you could possibly ask for. So he's in the right spot. It seems like he's in as good of a place as he can be, but we're all trying to work through it with him.
One thing Rachel and I were talking about coming back from Buffalo today was it might seem to some people a little off-putting or even unusual that Ed Oliver is laughing and smiling and joking, because for many people, they found out about this 48 hours ago. Now, for Ed Oliver and just about everybody on the Bills, this has been a weeks-long process of moving forward. So I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying it might be unusual to some people. Caleb, you didn't talk to us on the show over the weekend. Any reaction, any thoughts when you heard about what happened with Ed Oliver?
I mean, I don't know how into it you guys went. When I first heard about it, I think my larger reaction to was how I had heard about it, how it had gotten out there. I think that was kind of my more knee-jerk reaction. But it's a terrible thing. Like he was saying though, like I do agree with Michael Hoyt that a football locker room is maybe one of the best places, because he really does have just so many people around him who care for him and who are there supporting him. And like you said, this is not that I don't think something like this, they say that time makes things easier. I don't know if something like this, if it works for that, I don't know if it'll
easier,
yeah. But it'll never be like, I don't think it's going to be a drastic easier
right.
ever. Like, obviously I've never experienced something like this. I hope I never have to. I hope nobody ever has to. But maybe time can help it get a little bit easier, but never make it easy. But with that being said, it has been a month plus at this point, where he's been able to kind of get back into the football routine and maybe take his mind off of it. Maybe something like that. Maybe that's helped make it easier. Just having an opportunity, a place to go where, like Hoyt said, or like you said that Hoyt said, not every interaction is about that. Not everything you do, not everything that you think about is that. It's football. It's getting ready for the season.
We did discuss the journalistic side of this quite a bit in the show on Saturday, recapping the game. So anybody at home who wants to go see or listen to that show, you can get a few minutes, certainly, of us diving into the ethics of the journalistic side of that. In terms of what Hoyt said today, the thing you just brought up where he said that it was almost instructed by not only Joe Brady, but even with dealing with Ed Oliver too, that the way to best help Ed is to just treat him like Ed, and not, obviously there will be times when you want to refer to what happened and try and specifically address that. Mm-hmm. But in general, don't make it always about that. Help him move back, I guess, and do what as close to normal or what normal is going to be for him going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we saw today and the videos of him, joking around and talking with teammates. Like we said before, everybody processes things differently and grieves differently. But, this, like you said, this has happened a few months ago. He's had time to process it as best as he can. Like Caleb said, you don't think you're ever really going to fully probably process and move on the way that you were before this happened. But I do think this is best case to be surrounded by guys. And two, this is his job. I mean, he has to go back to work. And I think especially in a team environment, obviously you're playing football, people rely on you. I think, that plays a role into it, but I do believe that being around so many guys to be able to lean on it, especially, helps in this situation.
One of the ways I phrased the question to Hoyt today was, what you guys do is so unique. It becomes almost a bubble, almost has to, because you can't, if you're a plumber, you can go home and meet other plumbers. If you're an electrician, if you're in television, you can go home and, meet other reporters. We deal with them on a regular basis. In football, that group is limited, that subset is limited. So because of the fact that you're already kind of insulated in your own world, does it then become easier because you have to connect on so many other levels to be able to play the sport, that when something like this happens, is it, I don't know if easier is the right word, but certainly is it an improved situation? Is there more support? And that's kind of where the genesis of the soundbite that we heard there came from. All right, let's talk about what happened at practice today. Number one, it was mostly starters, and this is a typical thing that happens this week because the preseason game on Thursday will almost certainly be mostly backups. Jim Leonhard did speak to the media today, and as always, he was enlightening. The spots that I want to focus on today begin with the back seven or off the defensive line. Number one, he talked about Caleb Arms-Orr and Dorian Williams in that situation, and certainly intimated that it's possible they may both play. And I think that's where we're heading with that. The more noteworthy part of this, and Rachel, you pointed it out as we were listening to it today, when it came to the secondary, and the question I think was more specifically about corner two, but Leonhard moved it to the secondary as a whole, he did use the word concern. Now, he used it by saying those guys haven't played enough together because Max has been hurt and CJ Gardner-Johnson has been hurt. Cole Bishop has been hurt. But you and I had a hard time totally moving the word concern away from Max Hairston and Davis Enigmanoshin, neither of which had looked really at a level that you feel confident about playing as a starter in the NFL.
I don't think you hear the word concern really thrown out much by coaches, honestly. I mean, if it's maybe in regards to injury, but when it comes to how the unit plays as a whole, I think concern is something that you don't really hear. And like we said, as we were listening to it, it jumped out because I think it is a genuine concern. And I feel like normally a coach would be like, we trust both of these guys and things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. And he did say, things alluding to that as well. But the fact that he kind of, front-facingly said there's concern, I mean, it's telling, I think, of the competition at cornerback too, and just what we've seen or what we haven't seen from those guys so far.
To be fair, the word concern is like a red alert. It's a trigger word for us in the media.
Yeah.
We're like right. Pavlov's dogs. He's like, oh, concern. Here we go. Something bad happened. Ready? And it may not be, necessarily that bad.
Yeah, that's not something you ever want to hear from a leader in a coaching staff, whether it be a head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, or whatever it may be. But like you guys have said, I don't think he meant it in the fact as he's concerned about Maxwell Harrison or he's concerned about IGB. Like I do think that it's more of, we really haven't seen this whole group together very much at all. So Maxwell Harrison's had some flashes. He's had some not great time plays as well. Same thing with IGB. I mean, we've seen it from pretty much all the players. But if they can finally all get healthy and get on the field, I think we're going to see more of those flashes of good. And once they finally kind of learn how to mesh together. I mean, Cole Bishop and CJ Gardner-Johnson was one of those duos that we were like, man, this is going to be a weird mesh. And they haven't really had a whole ton of time to figure that out. From what we've seen, it hasn't been bad. But I think the concern is more of just haven't seen enough of them together to be fully confident.
We're joking about the use of the word concern, but the reason the question was asked and the reason we're talking about this is that Max Hairston in the last few days has not looked very good. Whether going back to the joint practice against the Browns, today was, I think, an overall down day for him too. Not terrible, but more negative than positive. So the concern is that the Bills are going to have to roll out somebody to start at corner week 1 against Houston, and they now have Kayshon Boutte, for whatever that's worth, to go along with Nico Collins. And whoever that player is has not shown in preseason enough to make you feel like they can play. And that's whatever Jim Leonhard wants to do to talk around it, however you want to say he used the word concern. Anyone who's watched practice, and we've all watched just about all of them, has to say that spot is a capital W worry right this second.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how this is Maxwell Harrison's job to lose. And I mean, early on in preseason, we were like, oh, he hasn't really done anything to make us like confident that he's had it, but he hasn't really done anything to lose it either. I think he's now starting to lean towards that. Maybe he's doing more to lose it, but IGB hasn't shown us anything that makes us like, oh yeah, he's coming to take it either. Like it seems like neither of them want it right now, which is not a good spot to be.
I think the fact that this spot isn't solidified isn't really a surprise, because I feel like when you looked at these guys going back to training camp in the offseason, we didn't really have this guy's, gonna win this battle. I mean, obviously Harrison has the upper hand just being in the league for a year longer, but I mean, he doesn't really fit the scheme, as we've talked about. IGB is a new guy, so it doesn't surprise me that they're kind of in this position now that they have to, maybe rotate out who's taking snaps or what's going on. But I mean, it is the fact that Jim Leonhard, going back to the word concern, it is a concern because there's really no CB2, and it's definitely a position that you, at this point in the season, want to have a little bit more clarity on.
I think it's a great point that it's probably a reasonable outcome that the two guys who are really young, one a rookie, the other one a borderline rookie because of how much he missed the year before, aren't ready to go as we head into week 3 of the preseason. It's reasonable. That would then move you to a debate about, well, maybe they should have had someone who would have been ready to go. Now, I don't want to dive into a hour-long roster construction discussion of Brandon being in the draft. And really that's a discussion for more like week 10 than week -1. But that is where we are landing right now. And because I think you're right. I think neither guy is ready, and it's not crazy to understand why they're not ready. Let's move on from the corner position to safety, because Jim Leonhard also talked about Geno Stone today. And I think we have all thought that Geno Stone has been disappointing, to be generous. Damar Hamlin is probably going to make the team again. But Leonhard revealed today, Rachel, that Geno Stone is nursing an injury, which does change the calculus of how you look at his performance and what the Bills might do with those roster spots.
It does, but he hasn't, at least to my knowledge, missed any time because of this injury that he's nursing. We don't know what the injury is. That wasn't disclosed, but I mean, I think you could give him maybe a little bit more leeway that he's not fully healthy, but I do believe that what we've seen isn't like he's going to get healthy and magically he's going to be fixed. I mean, these are things that I feel like he's just not reacting in the way he needs to react, or he's several steps behind where he needs to be. For me, he just hasn't impressed, and this is a guy that's been in the league and you want to see at least step into that role. And like you said, Damar Hamlin is probably going to be on this team again because of, Geno Stone not stepping into that role. So injury or not, I do think that he isn't, lived up to maybe the expectation so far this preseason.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit better about his performance now, given the fact that he's going through an injury. It makes me feel like I will give him a little more benefit of the doubt, but not enough to feel confident in any scenario that CJ Gardner-Johnson or Cole Bishop go down. I mean, we've talked about that where Geno Stone, yeah, he's a good 3. He's not really a good 1 or 2. And he hasn't really even looked like a good 3 so far. Like I said, with the injury, maybe I could be convinced. But injury or no injury, I'm not confident outside of the 2 starters right now.
I always remember that coaches, when they say things in press conferences that are somewhat noteworthy, there's usually a reason behind them. So why would Jim Leonhard suddenly reveal that Geno Stone has an injury? Probably because he's making the team. And when people wonder why he's made the team, well, now the Bills have a reason. Well, he was hurt, and he'll get better because he has not looked good in the preseason. The overall point from this entire secondary discussion that I'm coming to right now is that thank the bleeping Lord that there's not a game tomorrow. Because what are you confident about in this secondary right now? Cole Bishop, who's your best safety, hasn't played a whole lot. He should be fine. CJ Gardner-Johnson is still not on the field. Christian Benford is great. End of story. Everything else around that at corner, though, is a giant question. D. Alfred's been fine, too, so we'll give him that. So there are some wins here. There are some positives. But, boy, there are a lot of question marks. And even going back to the point you raised, Caleb, about how it looks like on paper Cole Bishop and C.J. Gardner-Johnson are like yin and yang. Oil and water is a bad term. I don't know if they don't work well together. Either way, they ain't the same, and you'd think you'd want to have some time with those guys together. This is probably not where the Bills want the secondary to be towards the end of the preseason.
No, but even to your point of, thank God there's not a game tomorrow, what's going to really change between now and week 1 other than
reps
guys
together.
Get healthy?
Yeah.
And maybe some more reps together, but there are no more in-game situations to help them improve. It's all going to be practices, and not that the Bills don't practice hard, and not that NFL practices don't help prepare you, but there's nothing like it's nothing like a preseason game situation. So I mean, the fact that I'm concerned now, I don't think I'm going to feel any more confident other than, okay, CJ Gardner-Johnson's healthy, and at least he's on the field. That's really the only thing that's going to improve between now and week 1.
All right, let's move on to a little more from practice today. We did talk about Max Hairston kind of briefly. There was one play early in practice where he looked really good against Josh Palmer in a red zone drill. And then in the very next play, Mecole Hardman whooped him down the sideline for a long play. Later on in the practice, he had a pass interference on Josh Palmer that it looked like injured Palmer for a moment, but Palmer came right back into the game, or into the practice, and he was fine. Speaking of the receivers, no Khalil Shakir, no Keon Coleman again today. So, Rachel, we saw a number of other guys, but still DJ Moore was the person who essentially stole the show today.
Yeah, as he normally does. I mean, he had a great catch on the sideline, kind of, tapped his toes, I'm pretty sure. And it was just one of those catches where you're like, everybody kind of was like, you hear the noise from everybody standing by and watching it. Other than that, though, I mean, really no receiver really flashed. I mean, Mecole Hardman, like you said, he made a good play. But other than that, I mean, it's a good thing that DJ Moore is the guy that's out there doing it. But at the same time, you want to see other people, but also there's injuries. So, I mean, it's kind of like you take what you can get at this point with it.
Story 1B for me today from practice after DJ Moore doing DJ Moore things was the number of different jersey numbers that I saw with the first team. Jamori Macklin had a rep with the first team on the first rep today. We saw Steven Gosnell, who's going to get a mention later on in the show, who was out there today. Obviously, Hardman we talked about. So there were a number of guys who had opportunities today. Skyler Bell was back at practice. We're going to hear from him in a little bit too. So there were chances for other receivers in this practice. No one really stood out, but the fact that there were so many was a story. Speaking of injuries, Jude Bowery was in a walking boot. His preseason has taken a sharp negative turn. The injury not his fault, but his play on the field in the preseason games have not been fantastic. In addition, no Terrell Bernard today. Connor McGovern's still not playing. Ty Johnson still not practicing as well. So this was a beaten up Bills team that we saw at practice. One other note that I want to make in terms of the practice itself, Landon Jackson had yet another flash, and he has continued to here and there. Oh, there's a Landon Jackson play. Oh, there's another Landon Jackson play. And he is looking more and more comfortable at that defensive end spot. All right, let's move on to one of the other stories from today. Few weeks ago, people at home may have noticed, if you're a big follower of the CJ Gardner-Johnson Twitch feed, and who isn't, that he had a Bills staffer on with him and basically out of nowhere just said to the staffer, hey, I'm going to give you $20,000 to cover your student loans. And the staffer was kind of a little incredulous. Thank you. He hasn't really talked about it at all. So I had a chance to talk with him today about making that donation. And the first thing that I asked him was simply why? And he had a pretty interesting answer.
Because she helped me every day. Sister, obviously, black woman in the NFL. Like seeing them do good, and it's one of them moments where it's like, if it was you, you would be happy in that situation and probably want to get back. So it's like, why not help somebody? That's some stuff I want somebody to do for me if I was like, busting my ass every day and showing that I care for them, making sure their body's right. So take the stress off one situation so they can make everything else easy. That's all it is.
So now Gardner-Johnson has kids who are actually not much younger than the staffer, in terms of this is a young woman who's recently out of college. I mean, he has teenagers who are going to be in college if they want to go to college sometime soon. And now, obviously, his kids are probably not going to have to worry too much about student loans, one would think. And I did ask him, though, hey, this woman who you work with all the time, who you felt it important enough to give her some money, she's not too dissimilar than the kids you have. Does that make you connect with her a little more? Does it, make this story a little more important to you? And he said, actually, one thing I want my kids to see from this is that I've laid out all these things for you. I've given you all these opportunities. You need to do the right thing to make people happy going forward. He wanted this to be an example to those kids, to his kids, about how to treat people, especially when you're in a situation like he and his family are in, where they are pretty well financially off.
For a guy that came to this Bills team and there were so many questions about his character and who he was going to be,
Right.
I feel like he's done a lot of things right to kind of win over Bills fans. I feel like he's like winning over us as he does these things. I mean, I thought we were talking about it on the way back here. I wish I had $20 or $20,000 to just, give to somebody. So it's great that he's doing that. And I love that he, mentions his kids as the example. So, I mean, really cool stuff from him. And yeah, I mean, this is what you want to see with guys that are, making as much money as they do. This is the type of thing you want to see.
Yeah, this is a guy that's had a lot of kind of negative talk around him. And for all the, he's butting heads with the general manager, or he's not meshing with the players in the locker room or the coaches or whatever it may be, even if that stuff's true, I think an act like this shows that he truly is just a good guy. And I think I guess I'll put my opinion in this a little bit from me briefly talking to him in some interviews or Rachel and that. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but he just seems like a good guy who maybe is just a little misunderstood or maybe gets a little hot-headed sometimes and his teammates or his coaches don't really know how to react to it. But like, if you know what you're getting with him, which seemingly so far this offseason, the Bills have known what they're going to get with him. If you know what you're going to get and you know how to react and you know how to kind of, I don't want to say handle him or deal with him because that kind of has a negative connotation, but if you know how to like work with him, he really is just this really great guy that just has a passion for football and has a passion for helping people as well. I'm
as big a CJ Gardner-Johnson fan as there is. I feel like the conversation has gone too far in the positive direction for CJ.
You think so?
Yeah. Just at least our conversation here right now.
Okay.
It just, as much as I think, to Rachel's point, everything he's done so far has been positive, there's too much evidence of him having issues with very recent teams for me to just sit here and say it's going to be apples and sunshine going forward in Buffalo.
Apples.
Is there a different phrase I should use or not?
I've never heard that one before.
Rainbows?
Rainbows and sunshine?
It's rainbows.
I
like apples and sunshine better. We cannot derail the show by discussing this.
We can adopt that. Apples and sunshine.
I like apples. Do you not like apples?
I do.
See?
I like rainbows better.
Okay, but you can't. All right, we're not. Like I said, this would totally derail the show.
Anyways,
bottom line, he's done all the right things. I do not want to get so far past ignoring what his past is to not think there cannot be problems here. And the Bills really largely have had an adversity-free preseason on the field. Off the field, it's been adversity everywhere, going back to the press conference when Sean McDermott was fired. But on the field, short of a few injuries, they've dominated 2 preseason games. A lot of the young players that you want to look good. DJ Moore looks phenomenal. So this is a team that's largely riding some very positive vibes, which is an ironic thing to say coming off the open of this show, which is talking about what happened at Oliver. But at least from the football point of view, it has been on the good side. Let's wait and see when there is some adversity. Let's wait and see when they do have to actually make a play on third down that counts in a game as opposed to what we've seen so far before I really give the CJ Gardner-Johnson full seal of approval. I think it can work. And there are inklings inside of me when I watch Gardner-Johnson that this might be the team that he finally settles with, but I can't ignore what's happened to him year after year after year after year after year before coming to Buffalo.
I'm not saying that those situations aren't true or that he's not at fault in those situations. I think what I'm trying to get at is what you said there at the end, is that maybe just Buffalo is now the right fit. Maybe he's just found the fit where it's not as, maybe his different personality and his different style doesn't rub as many people the wrong way.
And maybe he's more mature too. There's a part of that
there
too.
There is that part as well, that maybe this new Buffalo person is different. But I agree with you that there are still some concerns, but like Rachel said, so far he's done everything right. Just looking at him in Buffalo in a bubble, I have no concerns. But yes, I do still acknowledge the past.
I think 2 things can be true at once also. Like, I think you can have CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's a nice guy who wants to give back to people that help him, but he also has some issues on the field. Like, I think we can agree that those 2 things can be true at once. We haven't seen those issues in Buffalo yet, but time will tell.
Stephon Diggs was that way. There were good sides of Stephon Diggs that did not mesh with the sometimes diva reputation that he had otherwise. Speaking of receivers, Rachel got a chance to sit down with Mr. Skyler Bell. And what did you learn from talking to the rookie receiver who just recently got back into the healthy lineup here?
Yeah, he just got back today. Learned a lot about, he said he learned about himself actually, that he was a hands-on receiver, didn't really love being on the sidelines, but learned a lot. Kind of transitioning obviously back into playing. And one of those other transitions that he's been making is adjusting to Josh Allen's throws. We know that we always are like, okay, make sure you duck out of the way if one's coming towards you because it's going to hurt really bad. So he talked about, getting into the league and having one of the best quarterbacks with him. Now you're obviously in the NFL catching passes from one of the top quarterbacks in the league. What has that transition just been like for you?
Man, it's been great. Rarely ever, I don't think I've ever complained about a bad ball here because, you got 17 throwing it to you. So I think just having a guy like that, it makes your job easier. You could just go out there and be you, go out there, win your one-on-one, and then just go out there and catch it.
Was there an adjustment period at all with, the way Josh Allen throws the ball? Tell me about that.
100%. Everybody knows Josh has a cannon on him. So I think just getting used to his arm talent because it's one of one. He throws it with a lot of velocity. I think once I got used to it, you kind of find a charm for it.
Skyler Bell, we talked a lot about obviously Josh Allen there and the transition, but he's a lot of this rookie class, he just comes off as very confident and the type of player he is. Even though he missed time, he's, ready to jump right back into it. I think he told other reporters that he's ready to play this preseason game on Thursday. So he just was very confident and very, I'm here and this is what happens. He also said that this past injury was the longest he's ever been sidelined with an injury, which I thought was interesting. So for a guy that's been pretty healthy, this was kind of a little bit of a reflective moment for him too. And it's just, getting back into it, and we'll see how he can contribute to this receiver room that is clearly a little bit beat up right now.
It's funny you talked about, I don't ever complain about any bad balls. And when you hear that, you think of, well, he doesn't get any bad balls. I heard he doesn't complain because he's a smart rookie. I don't care what team you come into. Yeah. Even the quarterback's throwing you bad balls, you do not complain when your quarterback is Josh Allen.
Right.
I think the expectations for Bell have been pretty high coming into this offseason. I don't really think he's lived up to it quite yet. And a lot of the times an injury can set you back, but maybe this has kind of given him a chance to look at things a little bit differently and maybe sort of hit a reset button.
Now, we talked a little earlier in the show about Jim Leonhard speaking to the media, and another thing that he talked about was Christian Benford and how he's developed as a leader. And we've seen Benford go from a very kind of quiet, reserved guy to someone who's much less quiet and reserved. And Jim Leonhard talked about Benford coming out of his shell. Well, Benford took that to the extreme today. So let me show you what happened here. So D. Alford's doing a press conference, and Benford threw a football at him, trying to distract him. He's hiding behind the media and went back to the football trick. Not subtle at all, by the way. Everybody knows what's going on here. DJ Miller helping out, finger quotes. Then Alford decided that the football wasn't enough, Benford, and instead decided he's going to untie Alford's shoes, each of them, and then tie them together in something he thought was the most hilarious thing ever. And it was pretty hilarious, I'm not going to lie. And Alford, I also was worried, by the way, about Alford walking away from that and then tripping over himself because his shoes are tied together and like turning an ankle. And I've got all this video of Christian Benford creating an injury in the secondary. But bottom line, good moment today for sure at the end of preseason and the practice. And guys, it's just an underlining of where Benford's at. 3 years ago, you could barely get this guy to talk. And now he's like neck and neck with Josh Allen to be prankster number one on this football team.
I know, it's pretty surprising. I mean, I feel like he's still, compared to everyone else really on the team, he's like very quiet. But I feel like every time there's media, something happening, he's done this multiple times where he's snuck up behind people and tried to distract them. So this was just another prankster number one. I don't know if he's there yet, but I think he'll get there. He's getting there, yeah.
Even aside from like Benford and just being a little more vocal or a little more out there, he's talked a lot this offseason about the closeness of this defensive back room, from the safeties, cornerbacks, all of them. And I think this is just kind of another example that, yeah, he's out there a little bit more, but I think he also just feels comfortable around a guy like D. Alford.
Can't say it enough. I've been very impressed with who Benford's become as a person and a leader, and now he's having fun and joking. He does the same thing with us in the media. He's he's becoming one of my favorite guys to deal with in that locker room. And not that he was ever a problem, but I would have been very surprised to hear myself say that 3 years ago. Rachel, we got a minute. Let's knock out some turkey burgers quick. There weren't many. It wasn't a long practice. Who do you got?
Steven Gosnell, he had a touchdown in the red zone. It's not even for the touchdown, even though it was a good play. He got up and dunked between the goalposts. I mean, it was
A windmill dunk.
Windmill dunk.
Yes.
It was one of those, everybody on the side was like, who was that? And then it's Steven Gosnell. It was great. He looked like he belonged to the dunk contest. So turkey burger specifically for the dunk that Steven Gosnell put up today.
White Steve has ups. Who knew?
White Steve has-
My turkey burgers for Skyler Bell just had a play early in practice where he got open with the first team, but coming back from the injury, instant impact, I thought that was worthy of a turkey burger for sure. All right, it's going to do it for this edition of Bill's Camp Day Recap. We are back again for the final Camp Day show on Tuesday, last real camp practice, so we'll be with you then. As always, remember, you can watch this show on YouTube, listen on Spotify, or get your podcast. Remember to subscribe or Caleb will yell at me. Tomorrow it'll be apples and sunshine again. Thanks to Rachel and Caleb for joining us. We'll see you again on Tuesday.